Welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast.
In this episode, we talk to a real metal legend, Savatage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra singer Zak Stevens. We talk the new TSO tour, Savatage, and his new project, Arkin Angel. You can tell Zak looks fondly at his days in Savatage and is grateful to be rocking out big crowds still with TSO. He was never associated with 80's glam metal. Hey, that's my name, but we found out that he liked quite a bit of it. Check it out. All right, Zak, well, welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast. I've been a big fan of your music for a long time, so it's a real treat to be talking to you tonight.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike. Great to be here, and really appreciate it.
So you're out on tour right now with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. How's the tour going?
Going really good. We're going back to, there's stories with TSO, stories of Christmas, and there's probably a trilogy of 3 different stories that we've ever done, and we're going back to the first story ever, the one they toured with 21 years ago. So we're kind of going back to the first one on the 21st annual tour and celebrating that first story that came out on the record Christmas Eve and Other Stories, and I actually sang on that record some background vocals in the first in '97.
Nice.
So it's feel like I've been there since the very beginning, but yeah. It's going real good. We got Nashville tomorrow, and I just went to the Jack Daniel's distillery and did a tour because I'd never done that before. It was really great. That was in Lynchburg. It's probably about an hour from here. So we're having a good time in Nashville.
Are you playing with any old band members or rockers that my listeners would know?
Yeah, in the band we've got Christopher Caffrey on guitar. In the East band, there's 2 bands. We got West and East, but in the East TSO band that covers the East and Canada, we got Caffrey on guitar, and we got Jeff Plate, the drummer from Savatage, who's the drummer of TSO East. So we have 3 of the 6, active, latest Savatage members in this East band. In the West, they got Johnny Lee and Al Petrelli. John Oliva does not tour with either group, but, of course, a founder and major music writer for TSO. So we kind of are evenly split between the 2 bands as the original Savatage guys.
Trying to keep you guys apart. Do you cause a lot of trouble when you're all together?
Of course. No. It's we're a little older now, so there's a whole lot less trouble than it used to be. We're just kind of just try to go day by day. We take it one day at a time, and but we still have a lot of fun, and as long as we're having a good time and all the instruments are working well, vocal instruments and whatever instruments everybody, does, then we're going to keep on going.
Are you guys playing any Savatage songs on this tour?
Yeah, there happens to be 5 of them in the second half of the show. There's a story in the first half which sticks to the Christmas story, and then in the second half we call it the Jam. They actually have 5 Savatage songs for the first time. That's the most that we've ever had in the second half of the show. I think we have The Storm, The Mountain. It's kind of like a take on the Mountain King. We got Believe, and I got Handful of Rain in there that I sing. What am I missing? Anything? There's a few little things they piece together. But I think that might cover it. I thought it was like 5 of us. We're trying to remember this. We have the set list is like 2.5 hours, so you have to go. Oh man, you got to really count through it. Oh yeah, and I guess it was going to be Sarajevo 1224. You really technically call that a Savatage song because it came out on the Dead Winter Dead album in '96, kind of like our accidental Christmas hit that started a monster.
Yeah,
that started TSO.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny
so
that you said that.
That would be it.
Because what I always do, anytime that comes on, I think I probably told my kids, my wife, I've told anybody who would listen to stories how, this song came out as Savatage, but it really didn't do much. So then the next year they changed the name and they call it Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and then it blew up. You know what I mean? So I think I've told that story to anyone I can tell.
That's true. I mean, the fact is it did a lot. Even when it was a Savatage song, we had a station in Tampa. It was called Mix 96 at the time. And they had a sister station in New York City. They both jumped on it, and the phones went crazy, and it had a lot of activity, tons of spins, hundreds of spins. over the holiday season, and then it kind of spread across the country, and then we had this monster on our hands, and we didn't have anything to follow it up with. Everybody would expect a Christmas song, and yet we had the rest of the songs on Dead Winter Dead, which are great, but they're metal tunes about the former Yugoslavia that broke up into like 8 or 9 countries. So it was a concept album within itself, but it had nothing to do with Christmas. There was the Sarajevo 1224 was a song about Christmas, because I think the siege of Sarajevo happened around Christmas time, and this lone guy from the Sarajevo National Orchestra goes down there with a cello, going down there playing in the middle of it. I think he actually gets killed. It is actually a true story. I think he actually gets killed in the battle because he refused to watch his beautiful Sarajevo go down in flames. So that's kind of the story that started it. And, you never know what happens. I mean, Paul O'Neill came to us and said, hey, I got a new name. It's called Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Now, we were like, what? That's kind of long. I think the first thing I said was, that's a little long, isn't it? He goes, nah, that doesn't matter. And I said, I know you like that Siberian Railroad that runs across Russia. He was always really big into Russian literature. So that's how he got the name. So we were like, okay. And it just started small, and now it's a monster. So, you never know how things happen in the music business. We're lucky enough to still be able to just, be part of it,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I'm glad that TSO was a massive hit, and I'm glad that you still have a gig with it, and a lot of the guys from Savatage do. For me, I was into Savatage before TSO, as many of us were, so it's always going to be Savatage for us. But I'm happy for TSO, no doubt.
Yeah, that's true. And I was talking to John, and we were at rehearsals and stuff like that, and everybody's always asking about Savatage, and anything could happen at any time. When you've got the power of TSO behind you and the multimedia experience that it is on stage with movies, screens, music, lights, lasers, sound, even some Sabotage songs, TSO stuff, Christmas stuff. You never know what might happen. I said, what is, he said, hold on to your whatever, because we could get called at any time for something with Sabotage. So, you can never say never. It's been a long time, and we don't really know for sure. But, gosh, with it being so closely related to TSO, at any time we could get the call. So we're just kind of keeping it on the positive outlook and hoping that something bigger with Sabotage can happen either in a rock theater type fashion or either another pure Sabotage album and stuff like that. I think it's probably more likely than not.
Nice. That's
the way I see it.
I'm sure all the fans, that makes them very happy. Is there anything that has prevented a Savatage album from happening? Is anything blocking it, or is it free to happen?
Well, it's not really a block. I don't think it's a rare situation, because with Savatage, it's like we're kind of a subsidiary to a large corporation that is TSO now. So if they're going to compare numbers, and if they're going to look at just pure numbers, Savatage is not going to come out and match, TSO numbers of $65 or $70 million gross tour in 2 months' time. That's just an animal that'll never be matched in the music business. That's what makes TSO special. So if they're going to compare numbers like that, it's never going to compare. But the good thing is that we're sort of a subsidiary of this monster, the TSO. So we can have a lot of opportunities and not have to worry about, if you just looked at it from a pure numbers perspective, like a corporate CEO or something, you would think, well, Savatage is never going to have that, so why would they bother having it? You can have that viewpoint, but again, they're sticking so many songs from Savatage into the TSO set. I just see something brewing. I just don't know exactly what it is, and we don't know. We would never be told outright, but there's something going on, so everybody just keep your fingers crossed out there and keep the good vibes going, because everybody, I'll tell you right now, everybody in Savatage wants to do it. So that's the best part. You still have willingness, and we probably have to act fast. I think I asked John, I said, how long do you think we have till it's kind of like not doable? He said, probably about 2 years. So I kind of agree with that, so hopefully we can get something kicked off before it really doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Well, seeing that the Sabotage album is not in the immediate horizon, I was pretty excited to hear that you have a new project coming out called Arkin Angel. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I got asked by Frontiers Records to do a record with Aldo Lenoble. He's a producer from Italy and a great guitar player who does the albums for Timo Tolkki, the Avalon records he was producing. So I sang a couple of songs on the last two Avalon albums, and that was released on, the latest one was released on Frontiers, the first one was not. So we just had a pretty good working relationship, especially on this last one. The songs were really good, and I think they saw that me and Aldo worked pretty good together. So he has access to quite a few musicians in Italy, and especially he's got another band called Secret Spear, kind of a prog metal outfit. They played things like, Prog Power Festival in Atlanta and stuff like that in the past. And so we just started working on writing songs and stuff, and even my wife, Catherine, she got very involved, wrote, the lyrics and came up with the concept of the Archon, who is in Greek Gnosticism, kind of like an angel that is the carrier of messages from the earth people to the gods. So there's all kinds of wild conceptual stuff that you can put with it. But the album, Arkin Angel, they're following the life of the Archon, who's basically an angel type, figure, who's depicted on the album cover too. So we just kind of got some inspiration from that character to just kind of follow through subsequent albums. And I was real happy with the music and what it inspired and the lyrics, and everybody did a really great job. It's definitely kind of progressive metal, a little bit more on the progressive side than what people are a little bit used to from me. But the players are great, and we were able to experiment with a lot of different, music within that realm. So I think everybody's going to dig it. There's a little bit for everybody on there, for Sabotage fans and people who, who even might not be. We're pretty excited about it. We got a video coming out tomorrow. I think there's a countdown clock. I'm going to do a post here in a little bit that gives a countdown clock on a YouTube link for the video. So I think at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, you'll be able to view the whole video of the song Fallen. So Fallen is the first single, and we shot a video. I shot my part in Pittsburgh, and the rest of the band shot in Italy, but you really can't even tell that we shot in different places instead of me having to go all the way to Italy. But so we just, how technology is. We can do a lot without having to go vast distances, but we're looking forward to that, and you can pre-order the record starting tomorrow, and I think they're probably coming out with the actual release of the record around February 12th or something like that. But pre-sales can be ordered tomorrow, and people can look at the video, and hopefully everybody likes it.
Well, I can't wait to check that out, so I'm sure everybody listening will enjoy it too. Well, let's go back a little bit if we can. Let's go back to 1993. Now, my favorite Savatage album is Edge of Thorns. I'm sure you hear that from a lot of people. Okay. How did it all come about with you getting in the band?
Well, I was actually playing in a band called Wicked Witch up in Boston at the time, actually with Jeff Plate, who went on to become the drummer in Savatage after Doc Wackles took a back seat. And that's Steve Wackles. And, we never knew that we would one day be in the band. I mean, neither one of us. I brought Jeff in later, after Doc stepped aside, and that was in 94. But in 92, they were just listening to demos because John said, well, I'm going to take a break from singing for a while and do the producing thing and kind of let Chris Oliva take the reins and, run the band for a little bit. So he was all about getting a new singer. And I think I basically got lucky because my demo was the only one where you had a singer who's not trying to sound like John. And it actually worked in my favor. All the demos, they said they came in and everybody's just like screaming, trying to have that John sound. Yet Here Comes Mine had nothing to do with it. And they were like, And Paul O'Neill's like, I think I'd probably work with this guy. So I just got really, it's some talent involved, but still a lot of luck too. So Paul called me to come visit him in his apartment in Queens, New York, and I just got a rental and drove like the 4 hours from Boston to New York, and just kind of sat there on his couch while he played acoustic guitar and says, "Hey, can you sing this?" He might do anything. He played a little bit of Bad Company, a little bit of Beatles. I mean, all over the place. And just said, "Hey, just sing, whatever song." And I said, "Yeah." And just kind of sang. And he goes, "Hey, that's pretty good." So I think that went good. And he called me down to do it again, maybe about a month later. And that was all during early part of 92. And then he gave me a call and said, "Well, everybody likes you and stuff, so why don't you come down and, go head down to Tampa. We'll put you up in the hotel for a little bit till you can get a place and everything. But, if you're interested in being in the band, you can come on down and work with us." And I was like, I started following Sabotage like in 86 on the Power of the Night album. So I was like, this is unreal. So he goes, "We're going to be writing all the stuff for this new record." And that was Edge of Thorns. But we need to rehearse it all and get it ready to go into the studio over at Morris Sound in Tampa, which TSO now owns that studio, by the way, and it's called Night Castle Studios because Paul bought it. Bought the entire facility. So it does belong to TSO now. So, yeah, I just got down there and started, live rehearsals in a warehouse with the band. And, I had to kind of change my style quite a lot from what I was doing in the band in Boston to what was really required in Sabotage, having to really sing powerful enough to get past those guitars, and a huge stage sound they had. And it was crazy, but I was able to make the adjustments, and, one thing led to another, and here we go, recording, and had a single. Edge of Thorns, the most played single in Sabotage history. I think we had something like over 500 spins at something like 70-something rock stations across America in 93. They played the single for 6 months. It takes like 6 months to have 500 spins. Like a duration of a single. It set a couple of records on its own, So and Edge of Thorns was the highest selling album, and, some good luck and perseverance and just the will to rock, It was all freedom back then. I was 26. I'm 53 now, still doing it. But just a lot of good energy and, everything worked out in the right way.
Seemed like you hit it on the head, because a lot of the metal bands around 93 were tanking, right? And a lot of the bands that were really big in the 80s were going away. But Savatage finally got that break. I mean, that was very exciting to see. Your videos were heavily on MTV. Song was on local radio. I mean, that was exciting a time for a Savatage fan.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, especially if you're in the band or you're somebody like me, and like everywhere you go, we're doing like a U.S. tour. And, whether it be Tampa or 98 Rock or, any number of all those really big, metal stations at the time, even though grunge was coming in, didn't really seem to affect Sabotage. I mean, everybody still reacted very strongly to the single. And everywhere we went, I remember I would get in a car somewhere, here's Edge of Thorns playing. I'd get out of the car, go to the store, come back, here he is again. We go to dinner, get in the car, the song's on the radio. It was surreal to have your song, just playing everywhere you went, People just poke it. Like, we'd get in the car and here's Edge of Thorns, the piano part kicks in, and people are just like, not again, man. This guy's going to be like, but it was unreal. It was amazing.
So you get to Handful of Rain, and unfortunately, Chris Oliva passes away. Now, there was obviously probably some negative times going through all that whole process. Was there ever a thought of the band ending, or no?
Well, in the immediate time following his death in the car crash, and his wife was almost mortally taken out. I mean, she was lucky to be alive at the time. Passed away, I think, 7 years later from complications from it. I mean, it was just really terrible. It was a DUI accident, and the guy had his third DUI that hit him. Oh, okay. So it was just, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving was heavily involved in it. The guy went to jail for quite a long time. because I think the third strike you're out in Florida, so he served like 10 years or something, for vehicular manslaughter. So it was real touchy with the emotional component of that whole thing, and shocking. In the immediate time after the wreck, we did almost hear from every member of Sabotage that we all said, I'm done. This is horrible. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I quit. But then maybe 3 months later, they called us in and, feelings change, and we decided to go ahead and do Handful of Rain, So it was a gamut of emotions from just like, I quit, to like, okay, let's do it for Chris. And when we really thought about it, we know that Chris, he definitely would have said, are you guys crazy? You're not quitting. Get in there and do a record. Because that's what he would have said, and we knew it. But so we landed on the right thing. It was just, you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's anytime you lose somebody, a lot of times you've got two directions you could go. You could go off the deep end yourself, or you could get things back on track and say, what would that person want me to do? And I think you've nailed it on the head. Most bands come to that realization. The member that passed would want the band to continue, would want the music to live on. And I think Chris is probably looking down very fondly at what happened to a lot of the music he's involved with. You guys are playing it to huge audiences every night.
Yeah, and we even talk about it to this day. I mean, I was having, the catering and everything with Jeff the other day between shows, and with and we were still talking about, man, what if Chris, would have been around? What if he hadn't been taken out, that night, in that crazy, tragic accident that's quite, kind of rare, but still very tragic, And I think he would have been playing in TSO. I think he would have Sabotage would have gone nuts. It would have been, oh man, it could have been really, really great. But you can't, look back. I mean, hindsight's 20/20 and all that. You can't look back and get all sad. But just to let you know, we still talk about it to this day about what if.
Oh,
It's that predominant.
So let's skip ahead a little bit to Poets and Madmen. Why are you not on that album?
Well, we were, at the time, I had one very young child who happens to be 21 years old now, Cassidy, my oldest daughter. She was like 2 at the time. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to take a little time off because there's not a lot of activity really happening. That was a time when the activity kind of hit a very low level with Savatage. So we weren't really out on the road as much, and I was just looking for a little bit more stability with the young baby,
I understand.
So I said, you know what, I'll go. Yeah, I said, I'm going to go still do music on the side, but I'm going to take a break for a while, kind of stabilize my personal situation, and be there for the kids. Then here comes 2003, which is about 3 years after Poets and Madmen or something like that. And here comes my second daughter, my youngest daughter, Zoe. She's 16 now. So I kind of took about probably 9 years to just be home with the girls, but still making Circle to Circle albums.
That's great.
That band that was active at that time.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Circle to Circle.
I like it. I liked it because they grew up, they knew who I was. And if I would have remained on the road the entire time or something, I just don't know if we would have had the same, relationship and bonds and everything, and that really paid off. And then that happened to be the last Sabotage record because by that time TSO was well on its way. TSO had started in '97, so by the time you get to 2000, they're getting ready to phase it out anyway because things taking off so fast with TSO, and then the metal scene continuing to be a little bit more limited as far as radio and stuff. So that's basically it. I just that was when my leave of absence happened, and I kind of came back when it was time for Sabotage to go to Wacken in 2015. Decided, well, I'll come sing, and I told him, I said, I'm ready to come back and sing with TSO and Savatage and for whatever activity Savatage has. And so we had a successful Wacken in front of 90,000 people, and we did a TSO show paired with Savatage. We started out with Savatage on one stage, and then it switched. We were the first band ever in the 26 years of Wacken to actually utilize both main stages at the same time. So that was a record, and that one took a lot of planning and a lot of technological advances. And we still had our videos, and we had our screens and stuff, and that's kind of like when I really said, I'm going to go back into that full time. That was only like 5 years ago. So, you never know where it takes you. I did a lot of stuff like we were saying with Circle, stuff like that. We wound up doing 7 albums in 13 years. During my leave, we did 5 of those albums, one every other year. And it was fun. It was just a way to kind of be a little bit more at home and not have to commit so hard to being away for so much of the year. So I wouldn't change it. I luckily had the ability to do that. A lot of people don't really have that choice, but it worked out, and here we are still plugging away in both bands. We're both technically active,
Yep.
Sabotage is not inactive until further notice, so we're all on call, and really technically both bands are active, so that's the way we look at it.
Well, I think you made the right move because at the end of the day, family is most important. So I think you made the right move. But Circle to Circle, I got to talk about Watching in Silence. That's another one of my all-time fave albums. I mean, Out of Reach, Watching in Silence, Lies, The Circle. That's a kick-ass album, man.
Thank you. The first one's the charm a lot of times. Then it goes and morphs into all kind of stuff. A lot of fun. We didn't really have to worry too much about conforming to anything in that band. It was like, well, we can do what we feel like. You can tell from album to album. It was like, geez, it varied greatly as far as what it sounded like. And that was kind of fun, but it had its fun. And now, with Arkin Angel, we're kind of starting a new chapter of something different. It's a decent thing to have in there, and I think with the music and the vision and the what everybody involved brings to the table, the musicians, the writers, the concept, just it's a great team. So I'm all about working with a great team to see if we can, again, just make some waves and try to see if you can, leave a mark. And it's not it's no crazy bunch of pressure. We have the ability to do multiple albums, and we're going to see how things go. And if it goes good, we will. And if it doesn't go to our expectations, we don't have to keep pushing. But I think people are really going to like it.
Well, I know I'm excited for it. Well, before we wrap up, everybody's got to understand that my podcast is called 80's Glam Metal. And we're not saying that you were ever 80's Glam Metal. But I had to ask, did you ever get into that scene? Did you dabble into the 80's glam at all?
Oh, man, definitely. I was a huge Rat fan.
Nice.
And I was a huge Motley Crue fan. I think, Winger. You can go on and on and on. I got to tell you, I was a fan of a lot of it. Poison, up to a certain extent. Just whatever came out. I would give it a listen. Of course, I still like Black Sabbath and my Dio on the side during all this, and I think that wound up coming to the forefront. Queensryche and all that stuff started kind of like in Metallica, kind of rose to the surface for me, and I didn't put glam. The glam acts didn't wind up being the top for me, but they were close. I'm even reading a book. I'm actually reading Stephen Pearcy's book right now. Sex, Drugs, and Rat and Roll. So it takes me back to the days where I loved Rat, so I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm living this again. So the answer is yes.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thanks.
Did I ever have the tights and the hair? I don't think I used that much final net, and I don't think my pants were quite that tight because I just don't think it went there. But, you know, Sabotage, we didn't have to have our hair so high or our pants that tight.
That was probably a good thing, right?
But thank goodness, because I didn't suffer any permanent injuries from tight pants. So I just want to consider myself lucky. And but did I enjoy it? Yeah. And I've been following your program for a long time just because of the name. I got to tell you, I saw it a couple of years ago, and I like this 80s glam metal page.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, hey, I really appreciate you telling me that because, like I said, I've been a huge fan ever since you got in the band. So this is great. Well, hey, thanks a lot for talking.
Likewise, that's right.
Thanks for speaking with me tonight. I wish you a lot of luck with the rest of the TSO tour, with the Arkin Angel.
Thank you, Mike.
Just keep rocking, brother.
You got it. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you having me, and you take care, and I'll be following you as always.
As a huge Savatage fan, that was just wicked. I hope you enjoyed it. Now stay tuned for the next episode. Heavy Metal!